A trailer drops, and the internet briefly loses the ability to function. 60, 70, 100 million views in a day. Grown adults rewatching a 90-second clip frame by frame, analyzing a palm tree in the background like it's the Zapruder film. Countdown timers. Pre-order tiers. People genuinely, sincerely emotional about a video game that doesn't come out for another year. And somewhere in the middle of all this, there you are. Completely unbothered. Maybe mildly irritated that every feed you open is the same conversation about a fictional crime city. You've probably been told this makes you out of touch. Boring, even. Maybe someone's looked at you with real concern. Like not caring about the biggest entertainment launch in history is a glitch in your personality. Here's the thing, though. The psychology actually points the other way. So let's look at what's really going on. Not in your head, but in everyone else's. Why do tens of millions of people care this much about a
product they can't even play yet, made by a company that doesn't know they exist, set in a place that isn't real? And somehow the waiting feels personal. We've been waiting 12 years for this. We? You watched a trailer. You were in your kitchen. That little pronoun slip is doing something, and it's worth naming. Psychologists call it BIRGing, basking in reflected glory. Robert Cialdini documented it back in 1976 when he noticed university students were far more likely to wear their college's branded clothing the morning after their team won than after it lost. They hadn't played. Most of them hadn't even watched, but being near a win felt like owning the win. The self, it turns out, is a deeply opportunistic thing. And the modern version of this isn't a football jersey. It's a hype cycle. It's our generation's game. It's queuing at midnight for something a corporation built to take your money and feeling like part of something sacred while you do it.
This isn't a dig, by the way. It's just how identity works. People attach themselves to things bigger than themselves because belonging to something is one of the oldest survival drives we've got. Now, here's where you come in. The person who saw the trailer clocked that it looked impressive and then felt approximately nothing. Because that drive to belong, that tribal instinct, it doesn't disappear in people who don't care about big launches. You've just built that scaffolding somewhere else. A niche you're quietly obsessed with. Some creative thing nobody pays you for. A small group of people where you actually feel known instead of performing excitement for a release date. People who don't care about GTA 6 aren't missing the human need to belong. They've just turned down this particular vehicle for it. And honestly, when you look at the vehicle up close, it's a bit strange.
Let's sit with what hype actually does to the brain, because this is the part most people never think about. The genius of a pre-release campaign isn't the product, it's the waiting. A trailer gives you almost nothing. A glimpse, a date, a fragment, and your reward circuitry fires, not because anything happened, but in anticipation of whether it will. Unpredictability is a core feature of compulsion. It's the same basic mechanism that makes slot machines so hard to walk away from. Intermittent reinforcement. You don't know when the next drop is coming, so your brain stays hooked, refreshing, theorizing, waiting. The hype isn't a side effect of the game. For a lot of people, the hype is the game. The actual release can barely compete with the year of anticipation that came before it. And for people who don't feel this pull, that's not emotional flatness. The hook needs a prior attachment to grab onto. Without already being someone who's been waiting, there's no stake.
And without a stake, the countdown isn't thrilling. It's just a number going down. And here's something GTA does that almost nothing else in entertainment can. It isn't just a game. It's a timeline. For a huge number of people, this franchise is stitched right into the chapters of their life. They played the first one round a friend's house when they were 12 and weren't supposed to. The next one came out when they were a teenager, and it's tangled up with a specific summer, specific people, a version of themselves that doesn't exist anymore. The last one landed when they were at university, or starting a first job, and now this one shows up in their 30s.
So when they say, "I've waited my whole life for this," they're not really exaggerating, and they're not really talking about the game. They're talking about their own life passing, measured out in releases. The hype is a nostalgia machine wearing the costume of a product launch. And nostalgia is one of the most powerful forces we have. It doesn't sell you a thing.
It sells you a younger version of yourself. So sit with what that means for the person who feels nothing. It's not that you're immune to nostalgia. Everyone's nostalgic. It's that your memories were never pinned to these games in the first place. Your 12-year-old summer was about something else entirely, wasn't it? Something the people around you would probably feel nothing about in return. So when they reach back through a decade of their own lives, and the launch is the doorway, you're standing at the same doorway feeling nothing. Because for you, it just doesn't lead anywhere. That's not a defect in your ability to feel. Everyone's got their doorways, only some of them come with a global marketing budget attached. There's also a quieter reason some people care, and it's barely about the game at all. It's the fear of being left out of the conversation. Watch what happens when a big release takes over everything. The group chat lights up. The office breaks into it. Every platform is the same topic for weeks.
And there's a specific kind of dread for a lot of people in being the one person with nothing to add. Not because they care about the game, but because they care about belonging to the room. Psychologists would file it close to FOMO, the fear of missing out, but underneath it is something simpler and older, the fear of being outside the group while everyone else is inside it. So they catch up. They watch the trailer they didn't want to watch. They build an opinion so they've got one ready. The interest is real, but it's borrowed. It's social insurance. And this is exactly where the people who genuinely don't care get interesting, because they're doing the one thing almost nobody can. They're sitting it out, on purpose, and not flinching. The group chat lights up, everyone's got a take, and they just don't. And they're fine. That sounds like a small thing, but watch a room sometime and count how many people will fake an entire enthusiasm just to avoid being the quiet one.
When was the last time you pretended to care about something just so you'd have something to say? The person who can sit in that silence without scrambling to fill it has usually stopped outsourcing their sense of belonging to whatever the crowd happens to be excited about this month. That's not coldness. It's a kind of security most people never quite get to.
Now, before this turns into a quiet victory lap for the unbothered, it shouldn't. And here's the part that cuts both ways. The people who genuinely love this stuff are getting something real out of it. Shared anticipation, a sense of community, conversations with strangers who light up about the same thing, a small, reliable bit of joy in a world that doesn't exactly hand those out for free. That shouldn't be waved away. The real line was never fans versus non-fans. It's excitement that's real against excitement that's borrowed because the room expects it. The person who genuinely cannot wait, who's been theorizing for months and feels it in their chest, they're getting the real thing, and good for them. The person next to them faking it, performing a hype they don't feel because opting out seems socially expensive, they're just tired. And exhaustion dressed up as enthusiasm is its own quiet problem, whichever side of this you're on.
But here's where it reframes everything, and it's honestly strange to sit with. This whole version of fandom, deep emotional investment in a product months before it even exists, collective joy about a corporation's release schedule, it's extraordinarily new. For nearly all of human history, you couldn't anticipate a global launch. The concept didn't exist. The parasocial bond with a brand, the feeling that a company's product is somehow yours, that its success is your success, that's a creation of mass media and modern marketing. Horton and Wool were already describing this back in the 1950s, how television was manufacturing entirely new kinds of one-sided emotional bonds between audiences and things on a screen, relationships with no real precedent in human history. So when people talk about hype like it's some natural, universal human experience, the underlying need to belong is real, yes. But this specific version of it, the pre-orders and countdowns and feeling personally invested in a release date, that's a product of the last few decades, not human nature, a business model. And if you want to get genuinely weird about it, the person sitting completely unmoved while the internet melts down over a trailer might be closer to how humans were actually built to respond. That's not a hot take. It's just a strange thing to sit with. The idea that the unbothered one is somehow missing out, when the thing they're missing was engineered on purpose to keep them waiting and spending. So the psychology of not caring about GTA 6 isn't in the end about being smarter or deeper or more enlightened than the people who do. It's just that some collective experiences land for you and others don't, and you can't manufacture the landing. You can't force yourself to feel a stake you don't have. Apathy is indifference to everything, a flatness that touches all of it. This is something far more specific. It's a signal that your attachment system has already found somewhere else to be. Your brain isn't wired wrong, and it isn't cold. It's just elsewhere. And if you know exactly where, if there's a thing or a person or some small, strange world you genuinely light up about, then you already have the thing the hype was only ever trying to sell you. You just never had to wait in line for it. So if any of this made you feel a little less like the odd one out, subscribe.
It genuinely helps these videos reach more people who think the way you do. And then send it to the one person in your life who never gets swept up in whatever everyone else is obsessed with. The calm one. The one who just watches it all happen and shrugs. They probably figured something out a long time ago that the rest of us are still trying to learn.